Hi, good afternoon or good morning still, everybody. We are here for the second class in this year's Mindful Seminar Series. So with that, I'm going to hand it on over to Dave.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. It's good. I see all these names. I see one smiling face. Carol, good to see you. And Virginia, thank you. It's actually great to see human beings. After 2 years of, and I have to tell you, I've had a wild morning. I started early and then I walked 2 miles before it got hot. And then I came in here and I realized time's almost up. This is the advantage of Zoom. I can put on a shirt. You guys have no idea. You know, it's perfect. So, hi, Victor. Good to see you again. Well, I was trying to decide where we were going to go today. Last week, just as a quick review, we talked about how there's the past, which has already been done. And then we mentioned the future, which hasn't happened. And smack dab in between those is this thing called the present moment. And how I work with the present moment is going to start determining how my future is going to go. So if I have developed a skill set of being sarcastic and angry and turning into the old guy who's shaking his cane, telling kids to get off his lawn, and I'm thinking that way with everything that's arising, that's going to determine my future. So this elusive thing called the present moment is pretty important. And the thing about the present moment is that it's vividly and brilliantly always there. It's a little bit like the sun. Even though the sun is always shining, the activity of my mind are like clouds, and I can't see the sun because of the busyness of my own mind. But the trick is, how do you work with that? First of all, I love having a mind. I actually love having a mind that I can place on something, useful. When I built water features, it was not unusual for me to sit down where I said I was going to meditate. And then instead of meditating, I placed my mind on a project. And oh my gosh, 40 minutes later, I would have already built it. I'd had the rocks lowered. I would have had the equipment. I would have had the men. I mean, I would have done everything. And this is a part of us that's really cool to be human. But what isn't so much fun is that at 2 o'clock in the morning when I wake up and I'm still building the water feature, and I can't turn it down. I can't turn it off. So that's a little bit how I started to realize just how complicated my mind was. Last week, we went to recess. I'm going to call it recess, but we stopped for 2 minutes. I just gave some just very brief instructions that when your mind, we're going to stop, I'm going to ring this gong. And then when your mind takes off on you, the idea was to just be friendly. We talked about how your dogs greet you when the dog comes home, the friendliness, the scratching yourself behind. No matter what your mind's thinking, when you come back to the moment and place your mind one more time on your breath or the sensations of the body breathing, or just actually the sensations of the body, we are now synchronized. We're now synchronized with our minds and our body and the moment that's unfolding. But our habits are deeply ingrained, and the speed of our society and everything now tends to pull us out of that really quickly. I've often thought meditation is a little bit like going to the gym for the mind. I mean, if we go to the gym to build up muscles, we do repetitions. And so when you sit there and you do meditation and you just call yourself back to the moment as it is, that's a repetition. And you remember those crazy merry-go-rounds and playgrounds that you got on and they started spinning. Does everybody remember those? And there's always that small kid that got on and, you know, couldn't hang on and flew off the merry-go-round, and, you know, they ended up getting a cast for the summer. You know, they couldn't hold on. And one of the things about those merry-go-rounds is that the older kids that love to go fast, they'd realize that the little kid might be having a problem, and so they'd know that they'd have to stop that merry-go-round. But you couldn't just grab the merry-go-round, it would rip your arm off. And so the only way to stop a merry-go-round was every time the bar went by, you'd tap it. And bit by bit by bit, it was not a slap, it was a slow process that thing finally slowed down, and you could take the little kid off and you know, send them on their way. Meditation's a little bit like that. We have developed a tremendous momentum over the course of our lifetimes for certain types and flavors of thinking. And so we're actually, to simplify our lives, has to develop a sort of familiarity, not only with the speed, which we did last week, and I think somebody here said, my God, my mind is out of control. I can't believe how many thoughts I had in 2 minutes. That's a brilliant first step. Oh my God, that just to notice that is worthwhile. I teach a lot of meditation, and I've had so many comments about, my God, I thought you said meditation would be helpful. I thought I could get calm with meditation. No, meditation, the word from Sanskrit means to become familiar. And the brilliance of becoming familiar with our own mind is that we can actually start to recognize things so completely that we can relax with it. And the mistake of trying to get rid of thoughts, it's never happened to me. I mean, thoughts are what my mind does. But I have worn some things out over the years that I'd see the same thoughts coming up and I'd just go, oh, nah. I just don't, you know, I'm so bored with them that I'm just not interested in using that thoughts to rev up again. And so we actually wear out our thoughts and move towards simplicity in our lives. That would be a form of decluttering the mind, just to become familiar with what's going on. And that's what we have to do to begin. I was trying to come up with an analogy. I remember once when I was walking my 4 kids, they were all young. I was at Crown Hill and I came around the corner and there was a sunset that was so spectacular and so beautiful that all of a sudden I felt, you know, my eyes brim. It was that gorgeous. But then my thinking mind really can't stand having a feeling, those pesky little feelings that come up like that. So I pictured myself being a play-by-play announcer of my own life. And I picked up my microphone. I say, well, that's a beautiful sunrise or sunset, but I remember back in '64. Now that was a sunset to remember. In other words, all of a sudden now I'm reporting on my life all the time. I had no idea that I was a play-by-play announcer of my own life. Even though the moment is always in the game, I was never in the game because I was so busy reporting on it. Meditation is a little bit like putting down the microphone, just actually setting it down for a moment and resting in the moment as it is, no matter what's going on, pleasant, unpleasant, that doesn't matter. And if the thought that jumps in our mind is really juicy, it would be a word to put it. Maybe I'm ready to rip somebody apart in my mind or something like that, you know. No, I'm just going to put the microphone down and come back to the sensation of the body breathing. And I'm using the sensation of the body breathing. I actually think there was someone in this group last year that said the breath was a little triggering for them. There was actually a little bit difficult to use the breath as a form of relaxing or coming back. And so I've actually changed my own ways of teaching. If the breath is not comfortable for you, come back to the sensations of the body. What does it feel like to be sitting in a chair or cushion? What does it feel like to sit there and feel the air of the air conditioner touching your face? What does it feel like to sit there and have a sip of your coffee and feel that coffee go down your throat and this and that? Um, just the very act of being human. Jesse and I were having a conversation where she said another show she was watching said your first introduction to the world is you pop out of mom and now you're in the world. I mean, talk about a WTF moment, and someone grabs you by the ankles and whacks you one to get you breathing. If you're not breathing, can you imagine having the file system of your life start there? And then you sit there and every moment of our lives are constantly being added. And this is completely workable situation. And there's a very number of terms. I call it the archives of Dave. Strangely enough, I had a stroke 2 years ago, and it had the effect of suddenly memories that I hadn't remembered forever were vividly fresh in my mind. I was remembering things from 3 years of age. I was remembering things when my dad was in the Navy and he was stationed in Hawaii. I was remembering the beaches in great detail of looking at signs. So it was kind of a shock to realize that we're storing up everything. And if you've ever been around a little kid, they're just sponges. They're just, oh my gosh, everything in the world is a sense of fascination. So one more short story before we practice a little bit. I had the 4 kids and we went to a million ball games. And I'm sitting in the bleachers once, and there was a small child over her mom's lap, and her head was looking down, and there were these sparrows bouncing around, probably no more than a foot from her face. And she was laughing. Here's these little bubbly, feathery things bouncing around in front of her. She was an unfathomable concentration on the present moment unfolding in front of her. And the mother wondered what her daughter was laughing about and looked down and saw the sparrows. And she picked her up and she said, "Oh, sweetie, those are sparrows. Can you say sparrow?" And she, the young lady, she said sparrow. But I thought to myself, I said, I wonder if she'll ever see a sparrow again. Or will she see the word sparrow? So part of the clutter of our mind is that we've labeled everything. We've labeled every bird, every moment. And the majority of the time when I look at something, there's 3 categories. I like it, I don't like it, I don't care. I like it, I don't care, So those 3 things are constantly an override. That's kind of like the clouds. But if I just stop and I come back to the moment, I've practiced a lot now, that with an exhale, I can let go of whatever thoughts are in my mind. I can do it right now. I can sit down. And because of the amount of time that I have been noticing thoughts and letting go, it's a little bit like putting a rock on a piece of paper that's fluttering around. It's completely, our minds are so pliable, they call it, and now they're coming up with scientific ways of measuring the mind, the neuroplasticity, their study of trauma, all these things. They're starting to realize that studies from 2,500 years ago are now caught up with our scientific community. So I thought today that we're going to go to recess. I can remember being going into, I think it was 6th grade, and looking at the schedule, and I said, "When's recess?" And they said, "Well, there's no recess anymore. Now you're in school all day long, and you're not going to get to go outside and run around," which is always my favorite time of the day. So however many people here are going out on recess right now, you're going to hear the bell. It's not going to sound like a school bell. It's going to sound like a gong. It's going to be a meditation gong. And what I want you to do with the sound of the gong is give yourself a break. You guys are in the middle of your workday. You've got a short 30-minute segment that we can talk about things and this and that. I will very definitely end it at exactly 11:30 today. You still have time for people to give afterwards. But I want you to give yourself a break. You've been working hard, whatever your jobs are, they're demanding. There's lots going on. There's thought after thought after thought after thought. So this is your recess, and enjoy yourself. Give yourself a break. You absolutely deserve to take the next 5, maybe 10 minutes to just relax. And when your mind takes off on you again, just smile. That's what it does. You got to love that part of you always. But then notice you're taking off again. Just place your mind one more time on the sensations of your body. And for me, it has always been the breath. The breath is, for me, has always been trustworthy. I can just place it on the feeling of what it feels like to bring in a fresh air, feel the air a little colder on my nostrils, feel the rising and falling of my chest and body like an ocean on a calm day. And just relax into your natural elegance as a human being for just a short amount of time. And then I'll bring us back in a bit. So welcome back. How was recess? Carol, I'm seeing thumbs up. Would you like to say what that felt? I see some thumbs up going. What would-
Yeah, if I wasn't here with you today, I would have never taken a break. So it was nice just to relax and catch up on my breathing because I usually just work through everything and don't take time for myself. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yolanda, I see a thumbs up. What was your experience? Great and relaxed. Thank you. Yeah. So everybody, that was actually a relatively short recess. That was only a 7-minute recess. But it feels different when you come back. The momentum of our mind had just a little bit of a break. It was a little bit like every time you managed to come back, it was tapping that merry-go-round and slowing things just a little bit. And if we had a lot of time, we would just keep building this up. We'd keep building up a little bit longer every time. But I got to tell you, the very hot reactions I used to have when I tried to do meditation. I said, what a ridiculous waste of time. I've got things to do. I don't have time for this. And we're recording, so I can't swear. I promised Jesse I wouldn't swear. So I don't have time for this stuff. And but then bit by bit, started to realize it was the most valuable thing I was doing, because I was actually becoming rather ineffective in how busy I was all the time. And then I would bounce from one part of the job to the next part of the job, the next part, and this and that. And I would never, ever slow down ever and drink coffee to keep myself caffeinated. But then I learned this practice. And so I learned to just simply stop. Occasionally during the day, I literally would get in my truck and drive away from a job site and spend 15 minutes doing this practice. When I came back, I found out I was so much more effective, so much more on purpose in the way I communicate with people. And then that process has continued well into my, my golden years, at 71, and it's not that I don't rev up. It's not that I don't have a wild mind, but it's tameable. And I'm looking at a chat. I'm looking at people. Yes, great, relaxed. It's quiet, nice actually. Walk through the memories when I actually had recess. Soothing. It was a very relaxing moment. This is what we're doing. This is what Jesse is setting up for us to sit there and how to simplify our lives. And strangely, it's always available to us, but it is something that we actually have to kind of get used to. I actually had temper tantrums on meditation cushions because I couldn't stand not being busy. And then I had to learn how to sit there and handle emotions, handle the little mini temper tantrums of my mind. I had to learn how to be bored. I had to learn how to handle hot boredom. And then eventually, with more practice, it turned into cool boredom. So boredom is just another texture of being human. It's all workable. And that's what we have as a possibility. And I have exactly 30 seconds before Jesse starts going, this and that. So I'm going to stop. Thank you so much for spending a little time, and hope you guys enjoyed yourselves. You can, like I say, you guys have busy lives, so I'm going to let you go now, but I'm going to hang out here for a little bit for any kind of questions or comments or sensations that you have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. All right. Thank you, Victor, for coming again. Good to see you. You guys have a good day.